War is often seen as the collapse of order, a space where destruction and chaos reign. But even in the midst of armed conflict, international law attempts to draw lines between what is acceptable and what is criminal. These lines are defined by the laws of war, or international humanitarian law, which prohibit the targeting of civilians, the use of certain weapons, the torture of prisoners, and the destruction of cultural heritage. When these rules are broken, they become what we now call war crimes. Holding individuals accountable for these crimes is a modern concept, one that emerged painfully, slowly, and not without contradiction. The journey from the Nuremberg trials to the modern-day International Criminal Court in The Hague reflects the global effort to confront the worst aspects of war with the principles of justice. Before the 20th century, there was little in the way of legal accountability for wartime atrocities. War was largely seen as the sovereign right of states, and what happened during combat, no matter how brutal, was considered beyond the reach of courts. That began to change after the First World War, when the scale of violence shocked the international conscience. But it was only in the aftermath of the Second World War that the world took a decisive step. In 1945, following the defeat of Nazi Germany, the Allied powers established the International Military Tribunal in the city of Nuremberg. For the first time in history, individual leaders, not just their nations, were charged and tried for crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The Nuremberg trials set an important legal precedent. The tribunal rejected the defense of just following orders and established that individuals, regardless of rank or position, could be held responsible for committing atrocities during wartime. The court's charter introduced the foundational idea that certain crimes are so grave that they violate the conscience of all humanity. Yet, the trials were not without criticism. They applied justice only to the defeated Axis powers, leaving Allied war crimes, including the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, untouched by the same legal scrutiny. Even so, the Nuremberg legacy laid the foundation for the future of international criminal law and introduced the world to the idea of global accountability for mass violence. Despite this foundation, it would take nearly 50 years before another international tribunal of comparable scale was established. In the 1990s, two brutal episodes shocked the global community into action once again: the Bosnian War in the former Yugoslavia and the Rwandan genocide. Both conflicts involved systematic ethnic cleansing, mass executions, and the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. In response, the United Nations created two special courts: the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. These tribunals marked significant progress. They held military and political leaders accountable, issued the first international convictions for genocide since Nuremberg, and recognized rape and sexual slavery as crimes against humanity. These tribunals also expanded the definitions of war crimes and refined procedures for international justice. The former president of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milosevic, became the first sitting head of state to be charged with war crimes. The Rwandan tribunal, meanwhile, was the first to convict individuals for inciting genocide through media broadcasts. However, these courts were also criticized for being slow, expensive, and somewhat detached from the local populations most affected by the crimes. Their work nonetheless proved that justice for mass atrocities was still possible, even decades after the crimes had occurred. In 2002, the international community took a significant step forward with the establishment of the International Criminal Court, based in The Hague, in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Unlike the temporary tribunals of the 1990s, this new court was permanent. It was created by the Rome Statute and designed to investigate and prosecute individuals responsible for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community: genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the crime of aggression. The court is intended to complement national legal systems, intervening only when countries are unable or unwilling to prosecute these crimes themselves. However, the International Criminal Court faces significant challenges. Many of the world's most powerful countries, including the United States of America, the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, and the Republic of India, have either not joined or have actively withdrawn from the court's jurisdiction. Critics have accused the court of focusing disproportionately on African nations, despite widespread war crimes committed elsewhere. Additionally, the court does not have its own police force, so it must rely on member states to arrest suspects. This has led to high-profile failures, such as when former President Omar al-Bashir of Sudan, despite being under indictment for genocide in Darfur, was able to travel internationally without being detained. Even so, the International Criminal Court has expanded its reach. It has opened investigations into alleged war crimes in the State of Palestine, the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Ukraine, and elsewhere. The court is also grappling with new challenges in the digital age: cyber warfare, drone strikes, and the use of social media as tools for incitement and propaganda. These developments raise complex legal and ethical questions about how traditional concepts of war crimes apply in an increasingly technological world. At the core of all war crimes tribunals is a moral and philosophical question: can justice truly be served in the wake of mass violence? For victims, trials can bring recognition and dignity. For history, they can provide a factual record of atrocities. And for the future, they can offer deterrence. But the pursuit of justice is always imperfect. Political realities often determine who gets prosecuted and who does not. Legal definitions struggle to keep pace with evolving forms of warfare. And the suffering of victims cannot be undone by legal verdicts alone. Nevertheless, the international legal framework that began at Nuremberg and continues today in The Hague represents one of humanity's most profound aspirations: that no one, regardless of rank or power, is above the law. That the horrors of war can be confronted not only with force, but with truth. And that even in the darkest moments of human history, the principles of accountability and human rights can prevail.